Welcome back to the Me and Jesse podcast, everybody. My name is Mark Pavelich, and I'm super excited to introduce you to the star of the show, the one and only, probably one of the sexiest beards in the business, undisputed, and his F1 team is just destroying the world right now. The one and only Jesse Martineau, everybody.
Thanks so much, Mark. Good to see you. It's the Red Bull team is looking pretty good out there.
Can you imagine how excited I was, Jesse, when I came in second?
Oh my gosh. But really, the reality is,
what's this world coming to, Jesse? When I'm excited about coming in second.
Well, it is F1, so most people are,
yeah,
you get excited. Like you're a McLaren fan, you get excited about getting a point. Getting points.
Yeah.
It is a different sport that way. It really is. It's
super
strange,
weird,
but it is. That's how it is. Like, you're excited you got second, especially for Mercedes, who's really struggled. They could have maybe had two guys on the podium.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. And again, like, it's so funny because people, shitting on Red Bull and Max Verstappen for it's not fun watching. Well, they watched, and it's his English people, right? So they love Lewis Hamilton.
Of course.
So Lewis Hamilton did that for 7 years straight. And nobody complained about that.
Yeah, that's
other than outside, right? Like,
you think I would complain because I'm a Mercedes guy. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is that no, man, that's not how it goes down. You got to be straight up about this. Max is just a don right now. He's I respect him. Like, I respect him to the highest degree for the sole purpose of the way he's doing this. Like, he really is. He's just such a killer. And I want that kind of guy on my team. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want
absolutely.
a killer.
Yeah. Big news about the Raptors. Raptors got a play-in spot, so they got to play and maybe get in. So it is one of those things. Now, the rumor that I've heard is that Nick Nurse might not be coming back, which, again, one of those things. But
I'm a Nick Nurse fan, so
too.
I'm not gonna. You ain't gonna hear one bad thing out of my mouth about Nick Nurse ever.
No, they're actually talking maybe he retires. But I
can see that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know what's going on in his life, but one thing. Who was that? Eric Harris from the Falcons. Well, actually, nobody.
Happy birthday too! Yesterday was Eric's birthday. Yesterday, happy birthday, Eric Harris. We wished him a happy birthday from the Me and Jesse podcast. Stand up as stand up guys can come.
Yeah, and so he was saying about coaching. It actually is more involved, actually, in a lot of ways than playing, because you are morning till you basically sleep and wake up and start coaching again with tape and all that stuff. So I understand, like, it especially for quote unquote younger, because it looked like it was, remember the 80s, 90s, it was like 60 plus you could coach, essentially. 60 plus
you
years
had
old,
to be. You had to be 60 plus.
But now it's younger and younger, and 40s are very much.
Look at Shanahan in San Francisco. Yeah. You got, it's crazy, man. A lot of young guys coaching right now. McVay. But then you look at guys that are getting their resurgence out in Seattle.
Yeah.
Like you think he's ready to go to the pasture.
Yeah.
And clearly he's not.
But it is an interesting thing, coaching. Like, I can imagine it being really tough on a family. If you have a family, like especially a younger family, it's going to be tough because you're always doing it. But and that being said, maybe that's something that Nick has to deal with in the Raptors and that kind of thing. I think the Raptors are in a good spot to build around Scotty Barnes and just keep that rolling a bit. But
I agree.
But they got some work to do. Now, and then back into football, where there's a ton of rumors about Arizona Cardinals trading their third overall pick to someone. Seattle's been mentioned.
Yep.
Does Seattle take a runner and move up 2 spots to grab a quarterback? Richardson out of the Florida Gators, guy 6'4", 230, second coming of Steve McNair, maybe. Like,
unbelievable.
Can throw, can run, has power. So, maybe that's something that it's like another Geno, but young and even more versatile. But and then today the Tennessee Titans got rumored to trading up for that spot and maybe making a move to move Derrick Henry to Seattle And so,
Ouch.
yeah,
Ouch.
yeah, I know.
Ouch.
Like, so there's some interesting. I think that Arizona is in a really good spot to trade that pick. You got Kyler Murray. Why waste it on someone else? You could trade down a few and get someone that you really need. You don't need a quarterback, and that's what's going to go 1, 2, 3 most likely. So why not? Why not?
I totally agree.
Take a shot at it. And so that's really interesting too. We'll see what happens with that. But then, the world of soccer is going on. Well, football, Euro football. Obviously, there's a lot of games going on for CONCACAF. Canada played. So I don't even know what this tournament really is.
Neither do I.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, you're leading me down a road I know nothing about.
Yeah,
so
they played.
Big fights coming up in the UFC this weekend.
Yeah,
big fights. Everybody tune in. Oh my God, we got Street Jesus fighting this weekend. We got Ariel Sanyo fighting this weekend.
Yeah,
we got the champ fighting the rematch with the two of them. We got Gilbert Burns against Masvidal.
Oh yeah, okay. This is a good one. That's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a real good one. And Masvidal said today if he loses to Burns, he's retiring.
He's retiring.
But he's got a boxing organization now, probably going to make some big money with that. So he's like, that's the thing now, you all want to play for the love of the sport, but you know what, man, we talked about it last week. You know what, when you roll up to my house, like Live Golf does to all these guys, and the Masters are this weekend coming up. So the Masters are on, and this is when you're going to see Live golfers on the same field as the PGA golfers. This makes it like a heavyweight fight. And you know what's funny? Trust me when I tell you this. This weekend, a Live golfer's winning the Masters.
Oh boy, I hope so much.
So I'm letting you all know that
Dustin Johnson does it. I really hope that he just runs it on him.
Who?
Dustin Johnson.
Oh, DJ or Koepka.
Yeah, Koepka's on fire right now.
Who's found his way back.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, that's one guy you got to be careful with, because when Koepka gets on fire, thing could be over.
He's good at Augusta.
Yeah, this thing could be over by Friday. You know what I'm saying? He could get out there by Friday.
I would love nothing else to do. I want to watch based on to see how much airtime they actually get. Because I'm interested in that.
I agree with you, because the PGA, the scoundrel that runs the PGA,
shady.
He basically will. He technically has no say in that, but he does have say in that, right?
He does,
so we'll see. We'll see if they're showing those guys on a regular occasion.
Yeah, because CBS, I think it's CBS that does that, or is it NBC?
Well, you can't stop it. You can't stop it. If they're in
the front, they have to show them. There's no other option. That is the best thing for Live. Like Live, obviously under fire. It is really interesting. I've really been inundated with articles about Live. Falling apart essentially. And you're like, okay, how much of this is been sponsored by the PGA to try to do it? But anything, the talk isn't really the Masters PGA. The talk is Live going to the Masters.
That's right.
And that is something that people will remember. And again, you and I have talked about this extensively. We do think there's been some mistakes made with getting the CW network and stuff. Like, I don't understand that at all. I think you should have gone
people
at least
to subscribe to golf.
Yeah,
what's wrong with everybody?
Yeah, you needed a top 10 thing. Like, social media games still strong. Troy C. Mullins is amazing. I love watching her. She,
I agree.
Man, she could talk about paper towels and I would watch it. And and honestly, so they put a good team together. There's no question. They've actually done something
Faraday's
right.
over there. Faraday's over there too, right? He's the best. He's the
blonde woman, I forget her name now, but she got really popular as well. But they put a great team together. But the problem is no one's seeing it yet. So I hope that this can put some of that on the stage, and I hope Live really doubles down on making sure all their golfers get tons of play across all their channels during the Masters, because it's something that needs to happen to make golf enjoyable again, because it just isn't.
Totally.
Outside of the Masters, it isn't. I know I know.
I got an argument with Gary Player on Twitter. The Gary Player. I love Gary Player. Okay. But he says he pipes up on Twitter and he says British Open's number 1.
Really?
PGA's number 2. US Open's number 3. And the Masters number 4.
Yeah.
And I said, Gary, someone's not giving you your meds. I don't know what you're doing, but something's not right here.
No, that's
And
not
people,
right at all.
guess what? Can you imagine people jumped on my bandwagon when I put it in perspective for
Yeah.
them? When I said clearly the Masters is number 1, the U.S. Open is number 2, the British Open is number 3,
Yeah.
and the PGA is number 4.
100%.
That's the lineup.
I agree.
And people were all agreeing with me, and I said, "Yeah, I'm not saying anything that people don't know." But Gary Player was just shitting on the Masters, and I said, "No, bro. Even non-golfing people tune in this weekend to watch the Masters."
And that's the thing. Like, it is a tournament that is steeped in history. And it is one of those. It's the Super Bowl of golf. Like,
I told it exactly.
It really is, and I
it's
can't
the
even
beginning
imagine
of
why he would say
it's
something.
the beginning
like
of spring too. The Masters.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the Masters are on. Oh shit, it's springtime.
Yeah,
that's what it tells
true,
us.
Actually.
And that's what everybody feels like. And it's arguably probably the nicest maintained golf course on the planet.
Oh, man, nobody has touched it since October. Nobody steps on it until from October till now. They're serious about it, and they're rightly so. And that's what makes it awesome.
They take their shit serious.
That's what makes it awesome. They're not painting the green the day of the Masters.
Yeah, it's not like the
Super
Phoenix
Bowl
Open where people are going topless and sliding down the thing. Do you know at the Masters, there's no running. You're not allowed to run. Yeah, so act accordingly. Yeah. Act like you're going to a golf tournament, right? Yeah. You're going to the Masters. There's no running allowed. So when they open up the gates, you walk.
Yeah.
You walk accordingly. This is how the rules are made. You know what I mean? And it's like, to get to the Masters, you have to win the lottery to even buy your tickets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
I bumped into a cat the other day, the kid that helps me at the golf store. And he tells me he's been in it for 2 years. And his phone's not ringing. His phone's not ringing.
Well, our guest is here. We'll be right back on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavelich and Jesse Martineau. Get ready.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavelich, in the Grove, the big, sexy Jesse Martineau, and our special guest today, everybody, Stanley Cup champion. Okay, everybody? And listen, I get excited about guests, okay? I don't care. They come from the NFL, wherever they come, I don't care. This guy I'm excited about. Everybody, welcome to the show, the one and only Chris Nilan.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me.
We're doing great. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
How do you like that? West Roxbury, Massachusetts in the house today. Watch yourself. Watch yourself.
Now, you played only for original 6 teams. There must not be many guys for the career as long as you had, a dozen years. There must not be many guys that only played for original 6 teams.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. There's probably a few that have. I wish I only played for one of them, to be honest with you. But seeing as I was moved out of town, I was happy to have played for the Rangers, who, certainly the franchise they have since the beginning, and the Bruins, my hometown team, the team I always wanted to play for growing up, and I got that opportunity, albeit a little bit too late in my career because of, I was a little beat up by the end there, and if they drafted me, I'd have started there, but they didn't, and I'm very glad the way it turned out, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, you start with the Habs, and then win a cup in '86 against my team, the Flames, and so that era, and I wasn't super old then, but I remember my dad being a massive Habs fan, and going through your career, and it was relatively, you're 6-ish years in. That moment going there and through the tournament of the actual Stanley Cup Finals. Mark said this many times, but it is, in our opinion, the hardest trophy in the world to win. Would you agree with that?
I certainly partial to it because I played it. and I know what it's like. But I don't know the other sports. I don't know what
Yeah.
it's like to win the Super Bowl or playing that, or the, baseball. I can only imagine it's not as difficult when you think the physically taxing part of it, the physicality of it, all those things. So, you know, yeah, I'm partial to it, and it is terribly difficult. I believe it is the toughest one to win. And, you look at it, I remember getting the Stanley Cup final finally,
Yeah.
in 86. We went to conference final before that against the Islanders. We get up 2-0 on them, then lost 4
Right.
straight.
That's right.
And I can only imagine having never got that opportunity. And then you get there and you go, okay, we're coming back next year. And then all of a sudden you're not. And
That's right.
I just had Brian Scridland on the Raw Knuckles podcast recently. And here's a kid that, in his 13 years, 14, whatever it was, he played. He went to the final 4 times.
Oh.
He won twice.
Oh, he won twice. Okay.
Wow.
But it's incredible
Yeah.
that in his career, he got there 4 times. A lot of guys don't experience it once or even
No.
get close to
Correct.
it. So
Correct.
it's tough. It's a tough road.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way on us. And then in the playoffs too, like what we always love playoff hockey is because it's different. It's obviously more intense. Now, in the 80s versus now, how much was your role in the playoffs then than what happened as time went on?
What do you mean? My role?
Yeah,
what?
because, sometimes I find that there's not really as much of that. There's obviously mood setting and you're trying to get the other team and
Well, when
send
I
the guy out
played,
to fight.
back in our era, it continued in the playoffs. You
Mm-hmm.
fought during the season. I guess you had to be a little more selective or careful in the playoffs.
Sure.
But I mean, if you look at the number of penalties I have in the playoffs,
Yeah.
There's okay.
hello,
141 minutes in 86. So yeah, there you go.
So it was still certainly a prominent part of it, but I guess it maybe was not as a little Wild Westish come playoff time as it was during the regular season.
Right.
It was like the Wild West a little bit, and that was the game back then, and we played accordingly.
Chris, why did you choose to stay in Montreal instead of going back to Boston?
No, I went back to Boston.
I'm talking about like right now in your life. Are you in Montreal
Well,
right now?
I live in Montreal, but
Yeah.
I lived back in Boston. I lived out west for a while, and after I turned my life around, became a sober man. I had an opportunity here in Montreal in the radio, and that's why I moved back here for a job opportunity. Yeah, that's the only reason I moved back, and I'm still here.
Growing up in because you obviously understand the dichotomy between American and Canadian when it comes to hockey. Growing up in Canada, we eat, breathe, sleep hockey. Doesn't matter where you're from. Not so much like that in the States, but you're in a original six kind of area. So how did you get into hockey, or is that just something that every kid then gets into? Boston, Minnesota, those areas, the hockey hotbeds in the States, they were for years. The Bruins were big. We had all the major sports teams in Boston. So, but Bobby Orr was the big reason I got involved in hockey in the Bruins. I mean, Bobby came to town and just took the city by storm. Everybody loved Bobby Orr. They loved the Bruins, but we had those other teams too. So in the States, a little different. It's like I live in my neighborhood here. There's a rink, outdoor rink. Yep.
You don't have that in the States so much, because it doesn't freeze. You could put the rink there, but it ain't gonna freeze.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
it freezes here.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a big difference that way.
Yeah.
In the States. It's funny. I was reading something today. They were talking about, the NHL and how it used to be in the fighting, and it's, it had to have fighting in it for the people in the States and blah, blah, blah. And then one guy was saying, well, they should have just kept the NHL in Canada, screw the States. And I'm laughing, that's the ignorance of the statement.
Of course.
Because obviously, believe me, the money wouldn't be where it was. If it was just all Canadian teams and there was no teams in the States, there'd be no money, believe me.
Hey, we have the CFL as an example. Why isn't that bigger then? Yeah,
it was just funny to see it, but it's grown, and NHL is, got a grassroots effort to try and grow the game in the different areas. That everybody complains, oh, Arizona, get rid of the team, and it is kind of a bit foolish, but they got to figure something out there. They're playing in a college rink. It's crazy.
That's a gong show in Phoenix, but
yeah,
we've had guys on the show.
We've had gong shows in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Twice now they've gone to Atlanta and they've moved. And then Minnesota, and they moved to Dallas, and now they got another team in Minnesota. Are they going to go back to Quebec? Probably not, because it's too small a market. But Quebec really, when you think of it, if there's a place that really deserves a team hockey-wise, that would
100%
loves the game and the passion's there, Quebec City.
And then the rivalry between Montreal and Quebec starts all over again, and then we get that fired up.
But it's almost like that doesn't matter anymore, because there's so many teams in the league. It's ridiculous. I saw they had rivalry week a couple years ago in the NHL, and I don't know. I think Minnesota was playing Dallas, or there's some stupid rivalry. You don't even know what a rivalry is.
Calgary, Edmonton. Calgary, Edmonton's a rival. We live in Edmonton, and when those two teams play, it's on for real.
Yeah, rivalry. Was playing, 3-4 exhibition games against the Bruins before the season starts, and then playing them 8 times during the season, 4 times in Boston and 4 times in Montreal, and then seeing them in the first round of the playoffs.
That's right.
So you get the hate
on.
You
don't have that anymore.
I knew it was a rivalry, Chris, because my wife's from Montreal, and when I went to her apartment for the very first time in Montreal, Longueuil, Quebec, Montreal was playing Boston, and she was the sweetest French girl ever until Boston scored, and she went bananas, and she was like, I was like, holy shit, who are you? And that's the Montreal-Boston rivalry is at the top of the food chain for sure.
Certainly was.
Not
so much anymore.
Yeah. What do you? How close are you to the NHL now?
I follow it.
That's
I used to follow it all the time for my show, but I don't have a show anymore because I was fired because I refused to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I got fired and I started a podcast. So, but
how is that
I
possible?
pay attention to it.
How is that possible in this day and age? Because I am multi-vaccinated because my wife wanted me to, and I thought it was pretty funny. And Jesse was anti-vax, and I'm the only person on I'm the only person on the planet that is vaccinated that tells people it's your choice to get vaccinated. It's not. I'm not telling people to get vaccinated. I'm not telling people not to get vaccinated.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Certainly, it doesn't make a difference whether you care about that or not. It's the government,
and that's my point. How is
forcing people to get vaccinated?
Correct.
Forcing nurses like my daughter, who was 9 months pregnant at the time, to get vaccinated. She's going to lose a job for money she needs.
Crazy.
To be able to survive. So forcing military members to be vaccinated for something that, quite frankly, they should have been more concerned about people who had comorbidities and people and elderly people, the highest risk. And instead, they forced it on people, and it was just goddamn wrong thing to do.
Chris, my son was getting married in Vancouver. I was not vaccinated, and they basically said, if you don't have a vaccination, you cannot go to the wedding. And I said, what? And they said, but that's how it was, man. I'm telling you. And it's like, they really did. We'll look back in this time in history with total disgust in the years to come.
Well, I hope people do. I hope some people do. A lot of people have the blinders on because
regardless if you were vaccinated or not, though.
Terms with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's disgusting.
Really anyway, that's a whole other subject.
It is, but it is an interesting thing. Now you're into podcasting, which again, like lots of experience with radio and things like that. How do you like the transition of the two platforms?
I much prefer where I'm at. The radio was fun while it lasted. It was good. I'm glad I don't have to go on every day and talk about the team and what this guy's doing wrong. This guy and that. I'll be honest with you. I did not enjoy that part of it. And I was, I didn't like that part of it as much. I have fun doing what I did. Don't get me wrong, but the constant, what's this guy doing? What's this decision?
I get it.
they overdo it and it gets overdone. But that's what sports talk radio is and has become. So this gives me more latitude to do what I want, speak to who I want to, how I want to, when I want to, and it's a lot more fun.
All right, so diving into your story a bit, there was a movie made about you, essentially, the last Gladiators, and I just watched the trailer of it. It was 10 years ago now, but you've obviously gone through some things, and we've had some. We had George Rock. We've had
a lot of people,
a lot of guys that in the same position,
and including some of the guys that are hosting the show right now. Okay, so let's, like when people, that's what I always thought was funny, because they see us now, we're all fun and we're joking around and, hey, how you doing, guys, and whatever. But most people realize, because we've only said it on this show. I'm 55 years old, never talked about addiction, never talked about all this other stuff back in the day. But me and you both faced addictions, right? So when we talk to people with addictions, it's much more of a interesting conversation because we come from a place of experience, right? Like it's not, we're not talking like we know more than other people, but we both have gone through lots of addiction stuff back in the day, came through it. I watched your story, Chris, and I watched people say to you all the time, and they ask you the stupidest questions because they say stuff to you like, do you feel guilty? Should you be apologizing to anybody? Should you be? And I feel like when I hear people asking those stupid questions, because I've gone through addiction, I feel like slapping them because the number one person you're hurting with your addiction is yourself. Right. And people, it always drove me nuts when I've seen 10 interviews with you where guys are like, do you feel guilty? Do you feel this? And I'm like, oh man.
It's unfortunate because here's the deal. And I don't judge anybody for that because a lot of people just don't understand it.
They don't.
I didn't understand it before I was able to get help. So
correct.
I was as ignorant as the next guy. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people who look and judge people who suffer from addiction, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drug addiction, whether it is gambling, no matter what, people understand it as being a moral issue and that you should just be able to stop. Just stop. Right. Just stop doing it. Grow up. This, that, the other thing. And they really don't know what addiction's all about, and it's not that simple. So when you're educated on it through experience and then through, educating yourself and getting the right help and getting into recovery and surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded and have gone through that sinking ship with you, you tend to learn a lot more. And I went back and went to school for it to understand it more, to understand what happened to me and how I got the situation I was. And I totally accept it, understand it. And people say, oh, would you wish your life with any? No, that wasn't my life. This is my life. And
that's right.
I don't have any issue at all with it. And I'm in a good place in my life today. And that's all that counts, to be honest with you.
When I talk to people about addiction and things like that, you explain it or try to, and, again, sometimes they just don't believe it. How do you explain it now, going through everything you've gone through? How do you explain addiction, the addiction part, to others?
Well, yeah, the addiction part. Well, it's when you're physically addicted to a substance, it's it's not like, okay, I just stopped taking it and everything's good.
Breathing.
You can't. And when you suffer from addiction or alcoholism, that's a symptom,
right,
of the real problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no one knows what the real problem is. You may, well, chances are you do, but what you're trying to do is numb that real problem and not face that real problem and turn away from that real problem. I get a kick out of people who try and make a direct correlation between guys who fought in the game and suicide or death or addiction it has as much to do with that as it has to do with what happened to them when they were in their formative years growing up. It encompasses one's whole life, not a portion, but their whole life. And you know, when you look at addiction and have studied it and understand a little bit more, and a lot of times when you look at people who suffer from addiction, it usually as a result of some type of trauma, whether it was childhood trauma, you know, teenage years trauma, trauma in your life. It doesn't matter whether it was emotional, physical, sexual trauma, all different types. And a lot of times when people suffer from addiction, and they have one of those traumas in their life and they don't understand it, they never make sense of it. They don't connect with it. They're not sure in life, and it affects them in a lot of negative ways, in relationships, everything in their life. Okay. So, you know, people who do get into recovery, they get the help they need and do the work they have to do in order to get healthier, begin to understand and recognize how they got where they got and how they're going to live the rest of their life without having that being such a prominent part of their life and affecting their life in a negative way instead of in a positive way.
Did you have a moment where you discovered that, or was it a slow process?
It was a process, but I certainly, there were certainly signs there that I knew and understood, and I know what happened to me, but until I was able to make sense of it and understand it in a healthy therapeutic environment, then I was able to, like I said, make sense of it and then start the healing process.
Because that is, you are doing therapy on yourself with addiction, essentially. You're trying to cope. You're trying
People
to deal with
in recovery work on themselves. Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah. So. It is something that obviously, and I do totally get what you're saying when people try to correlate the two. Oh, it's because he was a fighter. It's because he took too many hits. It's because of, come on now. Anybody of all shapes and sizes, of any race or religion or whatever, there's everybody is on the same
doesn't
page.
Discriminate.
It doesn't. You know what else
That's
too
the word I'm looking
People
for.
don't get this too. Economically, it doesn't discriminate.
No.
That's the number one thing. People always think it's like, oh, it's guys that don't have no money or whatever the case may be, and it's like that's not true either, right? Because I know a lot of guys, you know, back in the day, you know, it covered everybody. Like it was no discrimination whatsoever when it comes to that.
How did you? Were you struggling that then? Like how long of your life?
I was in retirement, you know.
So when
I
retired,
I had surgery after surgery, and I was dealing with some pain issues. That's when it happened. It wasn't my whole life. I mean, I drank my NHL years. I drank alcohol. I didn't partake in the drug scene. I certainly drank my share, but you know, it became a problem to me. My life became unmanageable in retirement, and after these surgeries and dealing with the pain issues I had to deal with on a daily basis. And I didn't deal with them in a healthy way. I dealt with them in the easy way by what our society tells us to do. And it's basically take a pill to fix everything.
I was going to ask about opiates because that is something here, you know, here in our province in Alberta, we have about 4 million people and we're up to over 5 a day dying from opiate addiction. Just that. Just that.
Well, it's everywhere. It's rampant. And,
absolutely.
You know, you just take a look at the southern border in the U.S. It's wide open. You look at certainly the society that is the United States, and it's a shame. It's a country that goes around, and believe me, I love my country, but I'm ashamed of it right now. It's a country that goes around telling other countries how to live. And they can't even take care of themselves.
That's a good point.
100%.
They are a drug-oriented society, military industrial complex, the health industrial complex. Every night, every news station, that's all they do is push drugs on the air. And listen, drug companies, listen, for people who have serious diseases, these drug companies do come up with these great things, okay?
Sure.
But the fact of the matter that they're able to go on the news every night and push their drugs and then have their lobbyists go into the halls of Congress and push their drugs and push stuff through, and to see it, one of the 2 countries in the world that allow commercials
Yes.
for drug companies. And
Right.
one is the US, the other one's New Zealand. In New Zealand, it's very minimal. The US, it just dominates
nonstop.
The television set every night, and they wonder why we're where we're at. It's terrible. To me, it's corruption. It's, they say you can make a difference in with your vote. They're so full of shit. You cannot make a difference.
Yeah, no.
The people who go in there take care of themselves. They take care of big pharma, big business, and they do not give a shit about
one way or another
person. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. And I find that more people are, finally getting more public with saying it because everyone got canceled so hard for saying anything opposite of that. But it's now people are starting to say things, and even in sports, because now you're starting to see guys that like, no, I don't want to take this vaccine. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take that. You can't make me, and I just won't play. And but that's a very small percentage.
I agree with the stand, Jesse, but I wish they were doing it like, it's funny. You see guys with a lot of money doing it. Okay. Like the Colin Kaepernick effect, I call it. It's like, it wasn't like when Muhammad Ali did it. Remember when Muhammad Ali did it? He was not fighting for 4, 5, 6 years because of what he did. Yeah, Colin Kaepernick already had millions and millions of dollars, and these people, and they go down this road of, then they stand there like Norma Ray going, look what I did. Right. But this is going to be a stain on Canadian politics and Canadian history with what they did to people for vaccines. Like it'll be looked upon. Trudeau will be looked upon as literally like a Fidel Castro. He'll be looked upon as the same way as Fidel Castro.
Maybe
he will.
Maybe. Really, at this rate, it seems like maybe not. Maybe it just keeps going.
Well, we don't talk about politics lots, but
no,
when someone loses their job because they don't want to get fucking vaccinated, that's a problem in my house. Okay. And I've been vaccinated 4 times, and I laughed every time they were sticking that shit in my arm. I started laughing because my poor, beautiful French wife says, Mark, we should get vaccinated, honey. And I said, honey, I'm Croatian. We die of old age. We don't matter what I can eat what I want. I can drink what I want. And I'm going to live till fucking my dad's 90 years old, and he's walking around Windsor, Ontario right now. My Uncle Marty's 95, walking around Big Sky, Montana. These guys are machines. I mean, I don't know if you know, Chris, but my dad is Matt Pavelich, who was the referee in the NHL. And my uncle was Marty Pavelich, who started the whole hockey union for the NHL with Ted Lindsay.
No, I know who Matt is. Yep.
And my Uncle Marty is still alive at 95. And they both, they're forcing these old guys to get the vaccines too. And they're like, well, we're 90, 95 years old. What are we going to do with a vaccine? It's crazy. But this is what will be looked upon one day in our history. And we'll just be shaking our heads going, what the hell were we doing back then?
Yeah.
It is one of those things.
Yeah, I mean it is, but it breaks my heart because you had your job with TSN, and they tell you
what are you gonna do? Believe me, I'm not crying over it. It happened. It's done. Yeah. It's so far behind me. I could give a shit, honestly.
Yeah. How do you get your podcast bigger? How do you get your podcast bigger, Raw Knuckles? How does it get bigger?
Well, I just got to keep being interesting, having good guests, hoping people enjoy it, promote it.
What do you like talking about the most when you bring in guests?
Listen, I was talking mostly about hockey because that's what I was doing on the radio. Sure. I had a following to begin with. So, I kind of stuck with that. I mean, I certainly love to talk about more than just sports in my life. When I'm talking with friends and different people or family members, I love to talk about what's going on in the world, understanding where we're at in the world, the division in the world, all those things. But, that's not right now what's going to get people to keep listening to me talking about those things.
Sure.
Now, on another platform, another podcast maybe that would be geared to something more like that. If that opportunity opened up at some point, would I look at it? For sure. Would I do both? For sure. I mean, I could, but right now, I like interviewing and having former players on, guys I fought against, guys I played with, guys, doesn't matter. Hockey guys, management, coaches.
Yeah.
you know, I got Dave Brown. I'm taping this week. Guy I fought numerous times. You know, we were in the brawl to end all brawls. He had no jersey on,
Yeah.
and he's coming on Wednesday. I
That's
absolutely,
awesome.
and
That's
I've met
awesome.
him a few times. I absolutely love the guy. I think
Is
he's
Wednesday
awesome.
live? Is Wednesday live?
No, I don't do live. No,
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no live stuff.
So I know
We just
everybody probably always
take-
everybody asks you who was your favorite fight, but let's not ask that. Who
Good
was
idea.
who were the ones that you didn't like that you like to watch fight? Not you, but just guys that were out there that were actually ones that, hey, that guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, if there was a fight, I like watching. It didn't matter.
You
know?
just didn't care.
Didn't care.
Yeah, like in the game, it happens. You're gonna watch it.
Do you think do you think they're going to axe it?
I think it'll weed itself out. I
Yeah.
don't know if they'll ever take it out 100%.
And just let it
Again,
naturally kind of go.
I think it has to be.
It almost is now.
It has to be voted on by the players,
Right.
if they want to change the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will the players someday just say, "Listen, let's vote it out"? I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But yeah, listen, it's that way now anyway.
Yeah.
The odd few guys fight here and
Yeah.
there. You know,
So-
you have 10 fights in a season now. It's like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
3,000.
Something I've
minutes.
always wondered about is that the difference between hockey and other sports being that in hockey we're trained to hate the other team, like actually hate them. Where it seems like in a lot of other sports, basketball, football, that stuff, you're
Not so
hugging
much.
and praying
Yeah.
with each other at the end.
Well, I think it just depends on the intensity of it, the intensity level, some of the stuff that goes on. You know, you're going around skating really fast. You're hitting people. You got
Yeah.
a weapon in your hands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bad shit does happen.
Yeah.
Dirty stuff happens on the ice,
Yeah.
and you can see how things can escalate pretty quickly, and people react in a spontaneous way when some of those things happen. And you know, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it. You know, honestly, big deal if I ever see another fight.
Yeah.
I do. I watch it like everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, oh, they see a fight, they like it. But I kind of also look at it and say, listen, you know, you get two guys out there, and you don't see this often, but two guys just get so pissed at each other because one did something to the other one, and then they finally said, all right, you know what, I'm dropping the gloves and we're gonna fight. Boom. And they get it over with, and then you go back to playing again. I think back in the 80s when it was more of an intimidation factor,
Yeah.
certainly
It made a
that
difference.
was, it made a big difference. And it was it was a scary time because a lot of people love watching that shit, but when you're in the middle of it, you know, it's great to watch. No one wants to fucking get punched in the face though.
But you know,
Everybody wants to watch
I
someone else
wasn't
get
very
punched
good
in
at
the face.
hockey, so I chirped and said things
Yeah,
and
everybody
did
else
things
likes
and
watching someone get punched in the face.
yeah, exactly.
You know, and they say, oh, fucking, he lost, or he got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
He's a wimp, and
Yeah.
the shit that you hear, it's like, you know, people don't have a clue.
But you see McDavid get run over now all the time, and no one comes.
I don't see him get run over all the time. Fuck, come on, stop.
We're
I
in
know, I
hockey.
agree.
We're
I
gonna
don't
get
think he gets
hit.
run
We're
over.
in Edmonton.
Listen,
He does.
he
No one does
hit
nothing.
some guy from behind the other night too.
He did,
Like,
he
this
did,
is
he
fucking
did.
hockey.
Yeah.
No, I
This
agree.
is hockey.
I agree.
And
I agree.
I believe me, I don't have a problem. One problem I did have, and not with McDavid. Mario Lemieux always had someone take care of him.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
Yep.
he's in Pittsburgh, and he's got the best player in the world in Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
And he took anybody to protect them away. Like
Yeah.
I was always like, what's he doing? Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you know, the kid end up with a concussion, this and that.
Yeah,
And I get
that's
it.
right.
Mario probably hates that part of the game. I don't blame him. But he had someone protect him the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have someone. Kane's there now. Kane, he can play the game, and he's a tough kid. He's going to
Yeah,
help
tough
him
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. No, he can
Um,
throw. Yeah.
You look what happened in New York, and then they brought Ryan Reason, and then
That's
Tom
right.
Wilson went into hibernation.
That's right.
And you know, and it cost two very good men their jobs, in John Davison and Jeff Gordon. And thank God, because he's up here now in Montreal, Jeff. But you know, it's still going to be there, and the only way I guess they'll get rid of it is the players vote it out and then boom. What happens if they vote it out? It's gone, and then all of a sudden someone has a fight. They get suspended a game, then 2 games.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then because again, what you're saying, and anyone that remembers, like there was a consequence if you took a shot at someone. There was a consequence.
Yeah. Correct, there was.
And now you're like, you yell at someone, but really, who cares? It doesn't seem like there is that consequence, and people are just expected to deal with it themselves. Which doesn't seem right either. Like I don't know. Like
put your fucking big boy pants on and deal with it yourself.
That's what it is now.
But these guys, like, I mean, David isn't going to throw down.
But not everybody can do that. I get it.
Yeah.
And but it's the way the game's going. My problem is, I see the game now when guys get hit legally with a clean body check. Someone runs in and fucking wants to do something. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
me too.
And back in the day, there's a lot of physical play, a lot of body checking, and guys got hit, they got down, they got back up. I'll get you later. And if someone took a cheap shot, they were coming after you. That's it. So it's changed a little bit, but
do you still like hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I like playoff hockey, and during the season you see some good games, depending. The red line out, I like to see them come up the ice together a bit more. As a group of 5 moving the puck together.
Yeah.
Bobby Orr says it best. I'd love to see them, put the red line back in and have them pass their way up the ice. So they have to come through that other team and move the puck instead of I know he doesn't like it. They step out, make the long pass up over the red line. They chip it in and they get going.
Yeah, same thing every time.
It's not always that way. Okay. It's not always that way. It happens every game. Quite a few times a game.
Yeah.
And then there's times a game where, guys do have to come up the ice together because they're defending against a tough forecheck. They come up with the puck. Now they got to pass away out of trouble and get up the ice. Or they ice it. But, you see it at times. And these kids are so fast today and so good with the puck.
Oh, it's fast.
So talented.
Yeah, it's very fast.
That it's not like they couldn't do it.
Right.
It's like, instead of demanding they do it by, and I know they won't put the red line in because the league wants speed. They want fast. They want they want collisions. They want collisions. They want, they say they don't. Yeah, of course, you don't want guys getting their head driven through the glass, but they love that physical part. They sold it. I mean, they sold it for years. They sold it on TV here, Hockey Night in Canada, whatever. NHL with cars fucking sliding down the street out of control.
Right. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you remember the commercial.
Yeah.
Boom. Oh, great. This is what you're going to see on Saturday night if you watch. Yeah. So they love that part of it. And, it is part of the game that people are drawn to, the physical, fast part of the game.
Yeah, it is true. And the skill level has definitely changed, obviously, dramatically. And you see guys like McDavid who can almost do things at will. But I guess, too, the other side of it is, I don't know. There's something about it that is lacking to me still that hasn't really hooked me. Yes, playoffs are different, like you said yourself. Like, I like playoff hockey, and Mark says that. And, yeah, I like that, too. But is the season too long? Is there things that need to be changed to start to bring that back?
Doesn't matter what you think of season too long.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not getting any shorter.
No way.
Because the owners are not going to give up that money. It is a long season. 4 games a week, flying around, traveling. You're not going to get the best product. You're not. No. 32 teams. Those 4th line players are getting an opportunity to play in the NHL. True. They're not going to make the money all the top players are, but they're getting an opportunity to play in the NHL and be part of a team.
Money.
They are. Money. But when you talk about the talent level, the disparity in talent between some of the teams and some of the players, there is quite a disparity.
Yeah.
With 32 teams, there's always going to be them teams low on the totem pole.
Yeah.
The people who can draft well, the teams that can build through the draft and be able to, each year kind of play the music when it comes to 3rd and 4th line players, shuffle them in and shuffle them out and getting your team in under the cap and also being an effective team. That's, I remember when Chicago first won Stanley Cup, and because of salary cap issues and the guys they had signed, they had to let Dustin Bufflin go.
Yeah,
Of
that's
all
right.
people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Remember?
Wow.
See you later. You're gone.
Yeah.
Like, here's a guy that, imagine if he stayed there.
Yeah,
the
you're right.
impact
Wow.
Because his career fell off the map after that, really.
Yeah,
He had
but
like a
not so
good
much
year
so.
in
He had
Atlanta.
a good career. So what? He won a Stanley Cup. He
Yeah.
still had a great career.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, can you imagine if he was able to stay with the Blackhawks for the length of,
Yeah.
But because the way the cap's structured, they couldn't keep him. And a lot of teams run into that, and it's difficult. Back in our day, it was we didn't have the flexibility of movement. We didn't, but it had its advantages. And I say that because I played on a team in Montreal that didn't have a whole lot of changeover, and we grew together. We lived together.
That's how it was.
It was unbelievable. Like
you
that
ate
Oilers team, right?
The Oilers team together.
All the years together, the Oilers were together. That team grew together. They stuck together. They would, and look what they did. The Islanders, same thing.
Yeah.
And maybe the, dynasty stuff isn't great for the game, but I know one thing. I absolutely loved being on a team that's together for the time we were. I remember the first time someone got traded that I was kind of close to. It was like
death. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah,
It sucked. Like losing a family member.
Wow.
But everybody say, "Oh, that's part of the game. That's part of the
but
game."
It wasn't then.
But it was part of the game. The trades, but part of the game. It's as a fan, okay, you look at it, but when you're there, it has an effect on you. Like people don't look at that. Big deal. He's just a fucking piece of meat anyway. But it certainly. Listen, the game. It's come a long way. The speed of it, all that, the talent level. Kids today, like it's 24/7 hockey workout all summer. Be ready to go.
That's right. That's right.
They're fine-tuned athletes. Back.
Do you go live in Montreal? Do you go live to the games in Montreal sometimes?
Sometimes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot. I'd rather watch on TV. But
TV,
that's how I feel. That's exactly what I say too.
If they ask me to come in and do something one night, I do. I jump in the car and go in and go to the game. It's it's fun.
Well, Chris, we really want to thank you for joining us tonight. And
no problem.
And
I like the fly fish. You got your rods on the back there.
Well, he's a killer. He's a
got
killer.
the golf clubs and the flies.
Yeah. The season's
you got it covered.
Season's coming, boy.
It's open. One Rivers has no ice on it, but everything else is covered with ice. But I'm excited to get back out again. Winter's too long.
I fly fished for the first time about 5 years ago out in Labrador.
Yeah.
Wow.
A friend of mine, Mel Woodward, who he's a big Canadians fan, and he had myself out. He had Guy Lafleur out, and anyway, I'd never been fly fishing. I'd done all the offshore stuff, and off of Cape Cod, and I fished out in Vancouver Island.
Yep, that's where I'm from.
For salmon, I love it. I went to Langara. I absolutely loved it, but we didn't fly fish. We used the knuckle busters. Out there and troll and stuff. It was awesome. But I went fly fishing the first time out there. I had the time of my life, and I kind of got the bug.
Yeah.
That
first time you hook into one.
I had that contempt prior to investigation for fly fishing. And then
most people do.
Yeah. And then I did it, and I got the hang of it, and I'm there. You know what? Shame on me.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I can't wait to go again, to be honest.
Yeah, it is awesome. And everybody I convinced to pick up a fly rod are like, okay, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, everybody, tune in to your podcast. When do you air those?
Raw Knuckles podcast.
Raw Knuckles podcast comes out every Thursday. We have a different guest. We throw some teaser videos out, and I do an uppercut every week on what's going on. Like I did an uppercut coming out this week on did little shorts, about 3 minutes, on Chris Letang, 1,000 games, unbelievable. 2 strokes, concussion, knocked him out for a season. He had a neck injury that knocked him out for surgery, another season. Like,
still
talk
going.
about a warrior and a kid,
Yeah.
you know,
I love
3
Chris
Stanley
Letang.
Cups.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome story. But yeah, so every Thursday we release one, and you know, we've had some great guests.
You can catch it on Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah, Spotify, YouTube,
yeah.
and we had Price. I had Chelios, we had Cole Caulfield, we had Abba Jackai. Abba Jackai was so much fun. This kid, you talk about fighting and talk about big. This kid's hands, you would not believe the size of. If I had his hands, okay,
you would have
when
killed
I was
people.
playing, I would have killed someone. Honest to God, his hands are. He can hold 3 water bottles like I just like this, like that. I'm like, this kid. I'm telling you, scary. And the beauty of this kid is he can play the game too.
That's it.
And that's what I love, the fact he's not just a fighter, he can play. And but you know, we've had great guests: Cole Caulfield, Suzuki, come on, Jeff Molson. I had Jacques Lemaire. Jacques Lemaire does not do these at all. Anything.
Yeah.
He come on for 2.5 hours. We had to tell him to get. I had to tell him, see you later, Jock. Go play golf or something, will you? We're running out of tape. But he was awesome. We had a great time.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, listen, guys, awesome. I wish you well with the podcast, and say hi to your dad for sure.
I will. I will.
I used to scream at Matt when I was a young kid at the Boston guy, and he used to go in there and call penalties on my goddamn Bruins.
But you know what's funny though? When my dad, when I told him you were on the podcast, he was excited, and my wife, because my wife don't care if we get NFL guys on, all the guys from the UFC, but the second a Montreal Canadiens come on, my wife's like, okay, I know who that is.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, growing up in Longueuil,
Quebec.
Yeah. Then of course she's gonna know. Grow up with that pedigree of winning hockey games.
Well, her era around was when Stéphane Richer was there, Guy Carbonneau, all those guys, you know. And she was a hairdresser in Montreal, and for some strange reason, they all went to my wife to get their hair cut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she cut Chelios's hair back in the day. She cut Guy Carbonneau's hair back in the day, and then I show up one day, and I come inside the salon. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I said, what's Stéphane Richer doing here 3 days in a row getting a haircut, for fuck's sakes, right? And I said, that's enough, Frenchie. Bounce. Get your haircut somewhere else. It's going to be a problem.
He was only going there because they served wine and sandwiches.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right.
Well, we thank you once again, Chris, and yeah, we hope to talk to you again soon. That was great. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Chris, for
Nunn,
joining us.
Yeah, Knuckles on the show, baby.
Knuckles. Yeah, tune into the Raw Knuckles podcast every Thursday on Spotify and YouTube. Until then, hey, if you haven't heard about Backscape yet, you're going to want to hear about it. It's on the side of the screen right now. Backscape.com. Get rid of that back hair.
Summer's coming, guys. Stay a little motivated. Summer's coming.
Yeah, summer's
coming.
Don't want
you want to hit golf balls off the grass, not off your back. So
that's good.
Make sure get that Backscape. Go to backscape.com. I believe it's .com. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
.com. And don't forget about Crystal Glass, your clear choice for all your glass needs. Call 310 Glass or go to crystalglass.ca.
Until next time, everybody. That's
Holiday Monday.
Yes,
Holiday
Easter Monday is coming out.
Yeah.
Watch the Masters this weekend.
Watch the Masters, and then the week after we have old Oiler Dave Lumley on the show.
Oh, Lumley,
Stanley Cup champ, I believe two Stanley Cups. I think so on the show.
Well, that's right down there. Mark Pavelich. I'm Jesse Martineau. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast. Thanks once again to Chris for joining us tonight. And hey, follow us on all social media. You search Me and Jesse podcast and you'll find us. And until next time, everybody, do we have it out? I always screw this up. What's our out? We need an outline.
Oh, okay. On the spot.
Yeah. Well, not right now, but we'll have it for next.
We'll come up with one.
We'll get
It's only been a few years.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think it's time we had a close line.
We'll have a tagline when we bust out of here, you know.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/Me and Jesse.